So I've been a big fan of Fleet Foxes for the longest time, it seems, at this point. Like ever since I laid my ears on their debut album and Helplessness Blues, I've just always been fond of everything they do. And anytime they drop an album, I'm just hype as hell for it because I just feel as though they're incredibly consistent and they just hit such a sweet spot with their sound. Like they are really, really good at conjuring up these wonderful, beautiful melodies, especially with Robin's vocals, and it's really hard to deny. Like even when you recommend a band like this to anyone, I don't think you can ever go wrong because it's just so easy to listen to and it's just so lovely on the ears. If there was like a last FM for your entire life, if there was something that, you know, compiled the most music you've ever listened to from the day you were born till your death, I'm pretty sure Fleet Foxes would end up pretty high on that list. And it's funny too, because I always go through phases where I go back into their discography and just repeat it over and over, and then I kind of just leave them for a little while and sort of forget how much I like them. But it's a nice little warm, welcoming gift every time you put them on, because it's just like, shit man, I love this band. I forget how much I like this band, and when I put them on, they never miss. So of course, Shore being their latest album, surprisingly only their fourth studio album, would you believe? It feels like they've been around for so long at this point that you'd expect quite a few more albums than four, but I guess they just, you know, take their time with their releases, which is only ever a good thing, really. And with this new one, they sort of just kind of dropped it out of nowhere, which I thought was pretty cool. You usually get that in more like hip-hop leaning albums, I guess, these days. But it's really cool to see it when, you know, a random band just, you know, goes, hey, this is coming out, this is out now, here it is. I've been enjoying listening to it, but I've got to say, if I had to rank the Fleet Foxes discography, it would kind of go on a downward trajectory, if I have to be totally honest. I know a lot of people love Helplessness Blues and that is their favorite, totally valid in thinking that, but I think, you know, their debut, then Blues, then Crack Up, and then Shore, that would be how I rank their discography, because this newest album here is still good, but it's just missing a spark for some reason. It's just not hitting that same spot. The wonderful melodies I was saying at the start of the video that Robin just brings out of nowhere and just has this lively energy to his voice that you just cannot say no to. The harmonies, all of that beautiful stuff that's been on every Fleet Foxes album is kind of not really there on this one. I feel as though they've stripped it back to the basics on a lot of these songs. There's not really any moments that wow me. There's not really any moments that surprise me, actually, which I think even Crack Up had, because 3rd of May was a track that I don't think they'd ever even came close to up until that point. Like, them coming through with a song like that was insane, just how it just goes through this crazy adventure, and these, you know, peaks and troughs on that song were just to die for. And yet this album just kind of plays it fairly safe. I don't want to say safe, I hate saying that, but it just feels like I'm getting what I've already gotten before with a little bit less than I wanted. I do want to talk incredibly positively though, because there are some amazing moments here. I mean, Sunblind is just spellbinding. I think this track is just so bright and shimmering with just so much beauty that you can't really deny it. Like I say, there's always those tracks from Fleet Foxes that are just so hard to deny. It's smile inducing, honestly. It's essentially like being anywhere but the UK and you just have this wonderful sunset in the evening, because we don't really have that amazing weather over here, as any British person will tell you. But it's just like being in a different place and just having that really wonderful atmosphere that you can't really quite explain or replicate. But I feel like Fleet Foxes just touched that spot. And I Believe You is another great track, another highlight for me. I feel like the way he opens up his heart on this one, just kind of like pouring himself into this person, asking them questions, wanting to know where he is, where he stands with them, and his delivery, his vocals here is just super earnest. That's another thing I love about his voice. He just always sounds so genuine, and this is one of the best vocal performances, I think, on the whole album. The warm vocal melodies sort of like blanket you and make you feel like you're in a safe place. It's really weird, but I feel like they just capture that essence on this track here. Jara is one of the more upbeat tracks, really interesting lyrical theme too. It's like a eulogy to a man named Victor Jara, who was a Chilean folk singer and was killed by the Pinochet army, I think that's how you pronounce it. Really niche song topic to sing about, and I just admire how they would even come about making a song like this, I guess. It reminds me of something like Rome would do, like the neo-folk band Rome, where they just kind of pick out these really niche song topics and just make it really interesting to listen to, and you sort of feel like you're learning along with listening to a song. But with all those positives, and there are plenty of them, there are just a few too many low moments for me where I'm just kind of struggling to latch onto the music. Even Robin's vocals aren't charming me the way they usually do. Like, he usually doesn't have to do very much at all, and I'm just sucked into what he is singing because he just has such a great voice. But I don't know, man, I don't think Featherweight kind of captures what the brilliance of Fleet Foxes is. It's very light, it's very subdued, there's barely much of a tune to latch onto here, I don't think. And when you look back at their previous albums, there's usually slower tracks, but they usually have a way of just kind of like, you know, reaching into you and finding a way to make you engaged. But I just don't really feel like this one or the track I'm Not Seasoned have any of that. The tunes just aren't really there for me, I don't think, and they're just so stripped back that they go by, they breeze by completely. And once they're over, honestly, I struggle to remember how they even sound. They're just missing that liveliness on tracks like For a Week or Two, which is weird because I don't really feel like they usually are like that. There's always some lively energy, this, you know, beautiful spirit shining through. And there's just a few too many tracks. Even the closing track, actually, I feel like I could have done without. Because Cradling Mother, Cradling Woman is the penultimate track, and this has just a wonderful ending to it, this climactic closing finish that I just feel like would have been great for a closing track, but obviously you do get short right after that. Just that joyous instrumental that comes through when he screams, well, he doesn't quite scream it, but when he yells, "Cradling me again," and he just has so much passion in his voice, and that ending is just fantastic. I feel like there needed to be more of those wonderful instrumental moments throughout the album, and there just weren't really as many as I'd wanted. Young Man's Game, though, is probably, well, it might be my favourite here, I'm not really sure. I just feel like the vocals are so bold on this one. The tune is very sticky, which again, I've been saying there are a few tracks that just don't really have that stickiness to them. I just feel like there's that lively energy that I'm looking for in this track. And it just feels like a classic Fleet Foxes tune to me. Now, I suppose you could say, well, you know, not everything has to sound like what they used to do, and that's absolutely fine. Obviously, I don't want to be like comparing everything they've done to what they're doing now, because you could even say that they're trying to change things up, trying to, you know, bring out some different kinds of tracks. But I'm just saying, from my perspective, these tracks that are a bit stripped back, a bit slower, just don't really strike me that much. There's just nothing sticky about them, and I don't really know the longevity of some of these tracks as well. Like, I feel as though in a few months' time I might even forget how some of them sound. There's always a sharpness to their albums that I feel like is just instantly memorable, instantly recognizable, and this album, I think, is their least sharp to date, if we could say that. It's still good overall though. It's very nice on the ears, but I feel like once it's kind of over, it doesn't really leave a huge impression on me. But that's just how I feel. I know a lot of people will definitely disagree and definitely hammer me in the comments, which, you know, it is how it is. I'm gonna go 6 out of 10. Definitely an enjoyable album overall though. Try not to take the score too seriously, because that for me is a positive score. It's still something I'm mildly positive about. So even if it's not, you know, the best album they've put out today, I still think there's a lot of great moments on it anyway. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, so I'd love to hear what you think. Definitely tell me what your favorite album is by them, because I know people disagree on that. Tell me where this ranks in their discography and how you feel on it overall. Thank you for watching my review. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Click subscribe to stick around and see more of my videos if you enjoyed this one. Have a good day and goodbye.